Hello, thank you for joining me today. As you can see here, we've gone a bit mixed media with this card, and it's using the new dies that were released on the 20th of January on Hobbymaker, and these are the new Charmed selection. So we've had Charmed 1 and this is Charmed 2. So these are the rectangles, the borders and the squares. There's also ovals and circles, and you can see that they've all got a frame and the decorative edge, and then you've got a few decorative pieces in the middle of them. So we're going to be using a combination of all three of these sets today, just to show how they combine nicely with each other. And you can use them independently, or you can use them all together. So I thought I'd try and make a bit of a mail card this time. This is one of my samples for the shows on the 20th. So I've tried to mix it up a little bit, and we're going to go for the new rust for this one. So I've got all the pieces cut out to start off with, so I'll show you the products as we go along. And this one, it's my stepson's birthday on the 19th, so I thought I'll make this one for him. So we've changed, this one was Air Force Blue, so I've just changed it up to show you how different the two can look. So we'll put that one over to one side and we'll come back to that one later, and I'll show you them both finished. So let's take those out of there and put those on there. Keep my tray over to one side so I can keep all the little pieces. So the card is 14.5 centimetres. Let me just check. I think it's 14.5. Yeah, 14.5. So I've used a piece of A4 for this one. So you just chop. So this is 29 centimetres in length from side to side, and you've got the 21 across. Sorry for those in the US, I'm not sure how this equates to fit your letter-sized cards, but I'm sure you could work that out on the sizing of the largest rectangle die. So this is what we've used for the base of this card, and we've used the Charmed Rectangles 2, and I've used the outside die. I've not used the frame with it because I want the whole card. So cutting it with just the outside frame, you get the solid centre. But of course, if you put the corresponding die with it, you'd get a frame. So we've just used the outside one to start off with. So that's given us these and all those lovely little pieces that you could use for paper piecing, but we're not going to on this one. So I'm using the PVA, and this is Phil's premium PVA. You can see I'm nearly at the end of this bottle, but I decant it into a smaller one so that I get a smaller amount of glue come out. And it's really cost saving because, as you can see, you use such a small amount, but obviously you must remember to put the top on it. I keep saying obviously a lot today. I must try and stop doing that because it's annoying me. Right, so we're going to put that in the centre of the card base, and you can got a little bit of wiggle room to line that up with the edge of the card, and I've still not got it right. Right, so we can put that to one side and we can let that dry. Where should we put it? I've got things all over my desk. Right, so then for the next piece, bring this back in again, you can see that I've used the next die in, and we've just cut that out of ice white card, and the base was made out of ice white card as well. So you can see there's a slight, I don't know whether you can see, slight indentation. Yeah, there you go. You can see the indentation where it's been debossed as you've cut it with the die, which is a nice edging to this. So this is going to fit into the centre here. But first of all, we're going to be doing some smooshing. So let's bring this in and hopefully we won't get, no, not too much glare on it. So the colours that I've chosen for this are Rusty Hinge, Tea Dye and Old Paper, because I thought they'd make a nice combination on there and just have the 3 different colours. And what I'm aiming for is for the bottom right hand corner sort of going across here. So we've got some white space at the top for the sentiment, which is what I've tried to do for this one, for the blue one, but I've managed to get it just on the top 2/3, just so that the sentiment stands out, because if you put it over here, the sentiment doesn't stand out quite as much. Well, that was my thinking behind it anyway. So I'm going to start off, and you can see here that I've switched to my craft mat because the water beads on this nicely, so you can get the nice watermarks or the water bubbles. So you can see I've not put too much on there, and I'm going to spray it with a little bit of water, and then all I'm going to do is plop that in there. Technical word obviously, and you can see that we've got that on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe that up and then I'm going to heat that. So excuse me whilst I turn my heat gun on. It's in the distance whilst it warms up. And we'll bring that in and we'll dry this off. Doesn't take long to dry, as long as you've not added too much water to it. And you need to dry between the layers so that they don't all mix and go muddy. The card has gone a little bit buckled, but we can sort that out at a later stage. And now I'm going with the tea dye, and we'll do exactly the same, just push it down and twist it round, spray that with water and dip over where you've just been. And you can turn it over, have a look. I tend to go dark to light, but you can't really see that too much. But once it's dried, you can see a colour difference. So on with the heat gun again, and we'll dry that out. If you've got the time to wait in between and let them air dry, you get a different finish to the colours than you would if you force dry them. So turn that off and make sure that we wipe that up so that it's dry. And now I've gone to Old Paper because I just wanted a little bit of a contrast from the browns. So squish that onto the mat. Put the water on it so that you can see little bubbles on it. Oh. If it's gone a little bit too dark, you can mop it up. Let's wipe that up. You can mop that up, but I think that's quite nice. So let's get this layer dried off now. The heat gun's already heated up, so it's not cold. And you can see with the oxides that when they dry like a chalky colour. And if once you've got all 3 colours done, you want to add more onto it, you can do. And I think we'll just add a little bit more of the green, just a little bit, the old paper. And I want to see if I can get a few more of the little bubbles. So just to break up the solid colour of that one. Yep, that'll do. Let's wipe this up. And heat gun again. And I've got this on setting number 2. There's 2 settings on this. You can see how that's just broken up. Adding the rest of the colour has just broken up this brown at the bottom here. So as we can see, that's not flat. So we want to flatten that out really before we put it on our card. So all we do is spray the back and put it under your mat. Sometimes I lift my mat up and I find things that I've left there from before. It's a nice surprise sometimes because you've forgotten you put it there. Right, then we come on to the squares that we're going to put on the top, if I can get hold of them. So these are the squares here that we're just going to be putting patterns and using the same ink colours but just adding a little more pattern to it. And as you can see, they're raised up, so that gives a bit more definition to the card as well. So we're going to be using the same colours, but this time I'm going to bring in the notebook textures. And if I take these out of the package, let me take the whole thing out of there. You can see that we've got squares and circles. This one's well used, this pack is, and dots and ink blots. So this one gets used quite a bit. So it doesn't have to be perfect, so we don't have to use a stamping platform for this. So I'm going to use the circles to start off with, because we've got the circles round the edge. So it's trying to incorporate and make it use the same sort of shapes. So I think we'll start with the rusty hinge, add that to there, and just randomly add it to these squares. Oh, the squares have come from the Charm Squares 2, and it's the small square in the middle. And again, that's got an indented line around the edge of it. So that's where that one's come from. So we've used the rectangle and the squares. So with this double circle one, I want the circles to appear in different places on the squares so that they don't look as though they're the same. All right. So let's wipe that off. All I'm using here is a microfiber cloth. So we'll put the lid on the rusty hinge and we'll change shapes. And what shall we choose? We'll choose the, I think this old paper. Which one shall we choose? Choose. I'll choose the small circles, and they've got a hole behind them, and I think I'll do that with the old paper. So stamp that up, put it down, and you can see now that it's blending all of the colours together. So if we do that way round, turning the stamp as you go, or turning the squares as you go. And again, we're not looking for a perfect image, so if your stamping isn't 100%, don't worry about it. So let's clear that one up. So that was old paper. And put this one back. And then I think I'm going to go for one of the splats you can see here. And that one we'll use tea dye. And as this one's the lightest one, we can add a few of these just to fill in the gaps. So that's that one. See how easily you can turn a small area, and again you don't have to stamp all the way onto the square. You can just do a little bit. So with this one I'm just going round the edges, and we'll have a bit in this corner. This one I think we can do in that corner and that corner, and the last one put a bit there, in that corner, might have a little bit of ink to do that corner. There we go. So we'll wipe this up now and put that back onto the carrier sheet. And I think we've finished with those now. So put that back on there. So what we want to do with this is to add a little bit of colour just to go round the outside of it. So I haven't got my finger dauber out for this one. Bear with me. And I think we'll go round the edge with the old paper. So these are my finger daubers, and you can see that I've referenced them all. They're all in alphabetical order, and they come in this container, and they're just really handy. Fit them on the end of your finger, and we were going to use the old paper, weren't we? So just dragging it round the edge just to give it some definition and make it stand out from the background that we've just created. You could have gone with the darker one, but we've got quite a bit of the darker ink on the background, so I thought the lighter one would break it up a little bit more. There we go. Just have a sip of my coffee. Right, so we can put those to one side. Let's see how this is drying. Still a little bit damp, so we'll leave that under there for a little bit longer. I've got my other mat down here, so I can put that over to one side. It's actually on the floor, out of the way. Right, so what bit of it shall we do now? We'll stamp the sentiment, and for this one I am going to use my stamping platform, and I'm going to put it in. Make sure you can see that. I'm going to put that in there and secure it with the magnets, and another one at the side there just to stop it moving. Now you all know that I use my piece of acetate to position my stamps, and for this one, as it's my stepson's birthday, what shall I use? Happy birthday, it's your birthday. I'll use it's your birthday again. So this is from the Ticket Tape Tastic 2, and this is the Essentials set. that off to one side, and we're going to use It's Your Birthday. And I'm going to go with the Rusted Hinge for this one because it's a nice dark colour. So with the acetate, you can move it around and position your stamp. It's not too difficult when you're doing a rectangular or a flat-sided one, because you can always cut the card to make that fit. So put that down and then remove the acetate, and then you can stamp. And the beauty with having a stamping platform is that if your first image isn't good, just move the magnets off there just slightly. If the first impression of stamping isn't good, then you can go back in, which I've got to with this one. Sometimes you need to with the Distress Oxides, because you don't get a perfect stamping like you do with the VersaFine Clairs. Give it a rub. Yep, that's okay. So put that to one side. And I always keep my acetate in my stamping platform. And you can see that I've got a little yellow dot so that I always know that this is wrong side up and that the bottom always stays clean. So I have left my sentiment in there, but I will take that out and clean it later. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to just cut a fine border round it. So just leaving a fine border around the edge here. You may want to leave it so that the ink has a little bit more time to dry, but I've not got the beauty of that time at the moment. So let's put those pieces in the bin. And what I thought with this one is that I wanted to frame it, and I was just going to use a plain piece of card round the edge and put it, and I thought, do you know what, can we use one of the dies? So I looked at this one and thought, I can use the centre of that, but then thought, well, I don't want the edges. So all I did with this was cut, and this one's from the borders too, was took this one and cut a piece of card, and it wasn't the full length of the die, but that doesn't matter because the sentiment isn't the full length. So then you can work out how you position it, and I'm just going to trim a little bit off this end. And what I'll do is I'll stick this in place so we know where we've got to cut up to. So this one's just going to go on with PVA. I use my tweezers. Just leave a small gap round the outside and turn it over and press it down just in case that ink is still a little bit wet. And hopefully it hasn't moved, and it hasn't. That's brilliant. Don't think my cutting was as straight as it could be, and we're going to leave the same border. That can go in my bits box, and you could use it like that, but I thought it might be a little bit too decorative. So all I've done, you can see there's a slight indentation in there, and I've just used that as a cutting line to cut that off. And then you've just got the dashed lines as the border. There we go. So of course these can go into your bit box as well, and they can be used at a later date. And all I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put some foam tape on the back of it to raise this up when we put it onto the card. So I think we just need one more piece in the middle. So that again can be put over to one side and we can use that a bit later. Decide which way round we want these, so we don't want them all going in the same direction. So that could go that way, that could go that way. Now I've used the Lots of Cogs dies and I've just cut a few of them out in the New Rust card, and you can see I've done a couple of big ones, medium ones, smaller in size, and I'm just going to use some of the really small ones just to put onto these squares, so we'll see what fits. That one would fit on there, that one will fit on there, and that one will fit there. Yep, so we can put those like that. And all I'm going to do for this is I'm going to put some glue down on my craft mat, and I'm going to pick them up with my tweezers, press them in the glue and put them on the card. Again with this one, put it in the glue, tap it down so that it picks the glue up and put it on the card. And again with the last one, oops, nearly did that upside down. Oops, can't pick it up now. I think it can go there. Let's put that there, and then they're ready to go onto our card. I'm just trying to kill some time whilst they, excuse my arm, dry. Where's my... So we can wipe that up off there. Take another sip of my coffee whilst it's still warm. And let's see how this is drying. Yeah, it's almost there. There's my glass mat if you're wondering what the banging is in the background. So this is what we've got. It's nearly dry, but I can't afford to wait any longer for this, so we'll carry on with it. And you can see there's a lovely blend of colours on there. So we're just going to do one more thing to this, and this is using one of the 6x6 stencils, and this one is called Mechanation. So put that to one side, and we're just going to add some stenciling through it, and I think we'll use the Rusty Hinge as it's the darker colour. So again, shall I use... yeah, I'm going to use, change of mind there, I'm going to use a stipple brush, which is a short head, oh, the powder that's coming off that, short head brush, and you can just pick the ink up and stipple through the stencil. So use the Rusty Hinge, pick up the ink off there and just add it in a few places. So you just pounce through the stencil, and if I lift it up you can see the impression that it makes. Again, it's not perfect, but we're not making a perfect card. Let's add some of the chain work. And I always find if you put the ink resting, you probably can't see this, but you rest it up against the edge. Say if I rested it up against the top of the card itself stops the ink from moving. I don't know if you could see that. Should we put some of the chains there? It's quite therapeutic doing this. And you don't want too much because otherwise it'll overpower it. You could always put texture paste through as well. Where should we put this? It's a wonder the dog's not barking outside, wondering what I'm banging at. Is that enough? No, we want something in the middle here, so let's do some more of those. And again, I'll wash my stencil once I've finished, and my brush. Do you have to put your lids in line with your labels? I just noticed I hadn't done. One of my bugbears. Right, so with this now, it can be placed on the card base. So if we bring this in, let me take my craft mat away because I don't think we need that now. If we do, we can bring it back in. So this is going to go onto here, and you can see that the colours nicely blend into the card, and I'm going to put this one onto foam tape. So just bear with me whilst I add foam tape. You could use glue gel, but as I'm wanting to put other things on top of this, then glue gel presses down once you put any weight on it. So this is where I would use foam tape, because you can actually put pressure on the top of it when you're adding things. So nobody likes to have a soggy bottom, so I'm afraid you're going to have to bear with me whilst I add all of my foam pads. Just a couple more. There we go. Save those for later. And also make sure that it opens the correct way. Now, I like to have the darker bit at the bottom and the lighter bit at the top. But if you want to have it the other way round, you can do, and put your sentiment at the bottom. But you can now see what I mean when you lose the sentiment on the background colour, can't you? Whereas if you do it and leave the white space on there, it gives a nice background and contrast for you to be able to see the sentiment. So we'll stick this panel on. Just take the backing off. Let's put them in there. Keep things tidy. And these are easy lift ones. Like I say, you will wait until your card is completely dry before you put it on. Mine is still a little bit damp. Here we go. That's in place there. And now we can position things so that we know where they're going to go. So we know the sentiment's going to go up there. And then we've got the squares, which we're going to put foam tape on the back of and raise those up as well. These are very handy little foam tape squares. So I'm not going to take the back off. I'm going to position them first so that we know where they're going to go. And I don't want them in a line either, so I'll put them a little bit like that. So that also breaks up the solid colour in the background, and now we've got to work out, and these will break up the colour again. So the big ones, I'm just going to snip those in half, and they can go under like that, and probably under like that. And you can tuck the cut ends underneath, and I'm going to cut this one in half as well. And this one can go underneath there. And do we need another big one? Underneath there. And like this. And we can probably just have one on its own. Another one up here. And we can put another one down there. I think that looks okay. So with this one, what you can do is you can take the backing off the sticky tape or foam tape, and now we know where it's going to go. You can see, stick it on the back like that, just bringing it close to me so that I can see where I'm placing it and get it central. So you can see that one goes like that, and we can repeat that with these. So take the backing off, and we know that that one was going to go underneath that corner, and that one was going to go underneath that corner. And then we can add glue to that, because that's what will go flat on the card. Where's mine? So we can stick that down. And again, with this one, it was this bottom corner. So we can make sure that both of the cut ends are hidden behind, so that you can't see either of these ends. It's just a way of making your dies go that little bit further if you cut them up. Then I think we'll go there. And again with this one, so we're going in this top corner here. So it was that corner. So just putting it on there, and I think this one was in the opposite corner. And then we can put glue on that. And then for these three little ones, I need to, I knew we hadn't finished with it. I just want to put a little bit of glue onto my craft mat. Hopefully you can see that. Remember to put your top on. Not my top, because I am actually doing this dressed. Put the top back on the glue again. And we can, do we want a big one down there? Yeah, I think we do. And that one into the glue. Just means that you don't get great big splops of glue. Put it in that white piece on the back of your die cuts, so that it oozes out when you put it on your card. This way you just pick up a minimum of glue on the back there. And I think we'll put that there. Right, we do still need this, because then we're going to add some pearls to this, and I've chosen the teal shimmer for this one, and we're going to be using the smaller ones. My tweezers have got glue on them. Going to be using the smaller ones and putting them in the corner of the squares. So I've got a little bit of green on them and a little bit of the brown on them, which matches with the rusty hinge. So shall we put that on that corner so that they don't all match? Decisions. No, I think we'll go like that so they're all... And shall we go down there? No, I think that's better. Right, we'll put the lid on those. And these were Spearmint Waves. I thought they were the teal ones, but they're not. They're Spearmint Waves. Just had a message come up on my phone that I'm recording this with, so I hope it's not going to appear. And all I'm going to do is put a small drop of glue in the corner that I want it, and then we'll add... Sometimes I dip it into the glue on my craft mat, which is why I kept it, but I decided to do it a different way. Where did I put the blob of glue? There we go. Oops. And with this one, there we go. And then you've got your finished card. Let me take that away. You've got your finished card. If you were making it for a female or you wanted to add glitter, you could do... What did I do on the other one? No, I didn't add. And there you've got the two side by side. So they're both made exactly the same, just using different colours. And you could put texture paste through your stencil. Or I think it's quite nice to add the colour through there. So you can see the two side by side against each other. And that is using the new Charmed 2 dies. So you've got the rectangles, the squares, and I did use another one, and the borders. So the squares, the rectangles and the borders have been used for this card. I've also used the 6x6 Mechanation stencil, and these are all Sentimentally Yours dies and stamps, and these are the lots of cogs, and you can see there are lots of cogs. And I've used the Ticket Tape-tastic 2, and this is the Essentials stamp set, and that was for the sentiment. And I've also used the notebook textures, because all of these individual stamps give lovely texture, and you can see on the squares that we've just added texture in there. And you could add them onto the background instead of using the stencil. You could use the little notebook textures. And the only other thing that I've used are the Spearmint Waves pearls and the New Rust card. And the ink colours that I've used are Rusty Hinge, Tea Dye and Old Paper. There we go. And there we've got the two separate cards. Thank you for watching. Hope you give these a go. And please like and subscribe to my channel. It would be appreciated so that I can see if people have viewed and whether you like the things that I'm making or not. And hopefully we can see your makes on the Crafting with Phil Martin and Sentimentally Yours Facebook page. Again, thanks for watching. Bye.